Is it possible that the greatest tennis rivalry of all time was cut short by a brutal attack? This is the untold story of Monica Seles, the unstoppable force who was on the brink of becoming the best in history, until one horrifying moment changed everything. Have you ever wondered what could have happened if Monica Seles had never been attacked? Could she have become the greatest tennis player of all time? And how did this tragic event change the course of tennis history forever? In this video, we'll explore the rise, fall, and what could have been for Monica Seles. Before we get into the tragic event that changed everything, let's first understand just how dominant Monica Seles was in her early years. Women's tennis has seen some of the greatest athletes ever, like Steffi Graf, Chris Evert, Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, and Serena Williams. Each of these players had their era of dominance, often overlapping with fierce rivalries. Steffi Graf, for instance, ruled the late 80s and 90s, winning 22 Grand Slam titles and achieving the rare Golden Slam in 1988, where she won all 4 Grand Slams and an Olympic gold medal in the same calendar year. But even Graf's reign wasn't without its challenges. Enter Monica Seles, a 16-year-old Yugoslavian sensation. In just her 4th Grand Slam appearance, she defeated Steffi Graf in the 1990 French Open, becoming the youngest ever champion in the tournament's history. This victory wasn't a fluke. It was the beginning of Seles' dominance. Over the next few years, Seles would win 8 Grand Slam titles before turning 20. She was on a path to become the most successful tennis player ever, holding the world #1 ranking with an iron grip. But everything changed in 1993. Just a month before the French Open, while playing in the Citizen Cup in Hamburg, Germany, Seles was leading in her quarterfinal match when something unimaginable happened. During a changeover, as Seles was sitting down, Gunter Parche, an obsessed Steffi Graf fan, ran onto the court and stabbed Seles in the back. This shocking act of violence would not only alter Seles' life, but also the course of tennis history. To understand the impact of this tragedy, we need to look at the incredible rise of Monica Seles. Born in Yugoslavia, Seles quickly made a name for herself in the world of tennis. By the time she was 16, she had already won her first Grand Slam, defeating Steffi Graf in the 1990 French Open. This made her the youngest ever champion of the tournament, a record that still stands today. Seles' aggressive playing style with powerful ground strokes and relentless pace was something the tennis world hadn't seen before. She followed up her breakthrough win with 3 Grand Slam titles in 1991, 3 more in 1992, and the Australian in 1993. By the age of just 19 years old, Seles had won 8 Grand Slam titles and was the undisputed world #1. Monica Seles was on track to become the greatest tennis player ever. But then came April 30th, 1993, the day that changed everything. Gunter Parche, an unemployed factory worker with an unhealthy obsession with Steffi Graf, came down from the stands to the front row and stabbed Seles in the back. Parche's obsession with Graf had turned into fanaticism after Seles replaced Graf as the world #1. Fortunately, the knife wound missed Seles' spinal cord and vital organs, but the psychological damage was severe. The attack didn't just injure Seles physically, it left deep emotional scars that would impact her career and life forever. After the attack, Seles took a break from tennis to recover. the WTA held a meeting to decide whether her #1 ranking should be frozen until she returned. Except for Gabriela Sabatini, all of the top players voted against it. And just 5 weeks after the stabbing, Steffi Graf reclaimed the #1 spot. Graf went on to win 4 more Grand Slam titles that year, and eventually claimed her 22nd and final title in 1999. As for Seles, she made a comeback 2 years later and won the 1996 Australian Open. However, she was never the same player she had been before the attack. Seles struggled with PTSD, depression, and an eating disorder. And although she continued to play, the emotional and psychological toll was too great. She eventually retired in 2008 with 9 career Grand Slam titles. Had the attack never happened, many believe Seles could have surpassed even the greatest players in tennis history, including Graf. Let's take a moment to consider what Monica Seles achieved by the age of 19. Statistically, she was the greatest teenage player in the history of tennis. By the time she was 19, Seles had won 8 Grand Slam titles. To put that in perspective, her closest rival, Steffi Graf, had won 6 by the time she was 20. Margaret Court had 4, Chris Evert had 2, and Serena and Venus Williams had only 1 between them. Seles' early achievements were unparalleled, and she was on track to challenge the records of tennis legends like Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, and Margaret Court. Many experts, including Martina Navratilova, believe that without the stabbing incident, Seles would have become the most successful tennis player of all time. Navratilova once said, "This guy changed the course of tennis history, no doubt about that." The rivalry between Seles and Graf could have been one of the greatest in sports history, but it was cut short far too soon. Seles was poised to become the greatest champion in tennis, but fate had other plans. Monica Seles was more than just a tennis player. She was a force of nature. At 16, she was already beating the best players in the world. By 19, she had 8 Grand Slam titles under her belt and seemed unstoppable. But one act of violence changed everything. Gunter Parche's attack didn't just harm Seles. It robbed the world of watching one of the greatest rivalries in tennis history fully unfold. While Steffi Graf would go on to become a legend, there will always be a lingering question: how many more Grand Slams could Monica Seles have won? What records could she have broken? We'll never know. The tragic story of Monica Seles reminds us of the fragility of greatness and the impact of a single moment on a lifetime of potential. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, Tennis Tenacity, for more deep dives into the untold stories of sports history. Let us know in the comments, how do you think Monica Seles' career would have played out if not for the tragic day in 1993?